So now we're going to learn about the padding and margin properties. And again, just to put this in context, we're learning about the properties which we change to change how we format elements on HTML pages. So HTML pages, that's our structure. That's how we create the structure of the document. CSS, that's where we do our formatting. And then with our formatting, the way we do it is in CSS, we create rule sets. And a rule set has a selector or selectors. And then it has a declaration block. And then the declaration block has declarations. And each declaration has properties and values, has a property and a value. So that's where the properties come in. And I just want to reinforce that and make that connection, because I have found students are like a little bit lost in all the terminology. So just kind of connecting everything and showing you how it all works, I've discovered over the years that's really important. So forgive me for you. It's just like, okay, I got it already. I just want to make sure it's in there all the way. Okay, so we're going to learn the padding, border, and margin properties. I added border into this list. Really, all I want to teach you is padding and margin. But whenever I think about padding and margin, I have to put border in between, because the way the web works is everything is a box. And at the center of that box is some content. And then around that content is padding. And then there's the border. And then on the other side of the border between that element and other elements is the margin. And you can see this if, let's just go to the New York Times again. Seems to be my favorite website. You can see this if you go to the New York Times and then just right-click something. Sound like a hillbilly. Right-click something and choose inspect. So I'm going to inspect that. All right. And then when that's inspected, come over here and I could open this up and I could choose computed. And here is my content. And you can see that content get highlighted as I highlight it here. There's my padding. There's my border. And there's my margin. So I always think padding, border, margin in that order. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that in the next video when we talk about the box model. But I'm just preparing you to understand the box model. So padding and margin, what do? Let's take a look. So in WebStorm, and you could get this code on GitHub as always, the same file we've been working with. So if I preview it, this is what it looks like now. Everything is inline is its display property, right? Image is automatically inline display property. And then these divs, which are block level display, are now inline block because we set the display right here to inline block. Okay, so those are all lining up. And now on the image, I'm going to add a little padding. And I'm going to add, just to illustrate it, like 50 pixels. And so right here we have the image and then we have the border. So the padding is going to appear between the content and the border. So it's going to push the border out from the content. Are you ready? You see that? Push the content out. So I'm going to bring that down a little bit just to save a little room, and I'll bring that down to 20 pixels and refresh. So there you can see the padding. It's that white area right there. And now you can also see that this is really close. These are all really close. So if I want to move those apart, I could do margin, and I always type marring for whatever reason. And I'm going to do margin of 40 pixels. That might be a little too much. It might push things to the next line. No, that worked. But you can see there, it pushed those apart. Let me show that again and refresh. They're all right next to each other, and then turn the margin on and refresh. And it added margin between all of the elements right here, all of the image elements. So how cool is that? And also notice how CSS is working. So image, which applies to this image, and this image, and this image, and this image. This is an element selector, which selected all of the elements on this HTML page that are images, and it applied all of these rules to it, right? And then this has the class dog1. So this rule got applied to this element. And this rule right here overwrote that rule. So this rule overwrote that rule. And you can see that if we were to inspect dog1, which has the dashed border. So there it is, dog1. It's our second dog. I could right-click and choose inspect. And then come down here to the inspector. And you can see image got applied, right? And then border got crossed out, and this class got applied, and this is the border, which ended up ruling, which ended up being used for formatting it. And so coming in here and looking at the styles and seeing what's applied and what got crossed out and being able to turn them on and off, right? This is one of the ways that we do a lot of work as web developers, like coming in here and seeing like how's the CSS working, what's being applied, what got overwritten, what overwrote it, and coming in here and working. And then we can also see down below here, there's our content in the middle, and it's a square, it's a block. Cool. And then there's our padding, and it shows us the padding. And then there's our border, and it shows us the border. And then there's our margin, and it shows us the margin. So how cool is that? And it's a little bit funny because everything on the web is a block, but we've done border radius, so we've really changed the look of it. If I took that off, you'd see it aligning a lot more closely. That makes a little bit more sense right there, doesn't it? There's the content, there's the padding, there's the border, and there's the margin. All right, so in this video, we learned about padding, and we also learned about margin, but we got a really big preview of the box model and what that means. We're looking at the box model right now. In the next video, we're going to talk about the box model. And before we do that, however, I'm going to do the GitHub stuff once again. So if you don't want to see that GitHub stuff, now's a good time to cut out. I'll see you in the next video. If you do want to see the GitHub stuff, here we go. So I'm going to come over here, and I've added a folder so I can see what's changed by doing a git status. And I've added 15. And so 15 has my padding and margin example. So I'll do a git add -- all to add it to my staging index or my staging area. And I'll do a git commit -m adds 0.15 padding margin example. See, I always type margin. See, I just did it again. Example. And now I'm going to do a git push, and that'll all be pushed. And then I could type clear to clear out my terminal. And then I could come back here to GitHub and just be like, yo, is it there? And there's 14 and 15. They're there. So padding margin. All right, very cool. Next video, we're learning about the box model.